Signs of autism in children as young as 18 months. Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
SKOR North on AM 1500 KSTP St. Paul, Minneapolis, 94.5 KSTP FM St. Paul HD2, and on SKORNorth.com. TCL is a proud sponsor of the SKOR North Studios. TCL, America's fastest growing TV brand. It's Purple Daily.
And welcome. It is Purple Daily. Judd Zulgad, Matthew Coller, Manny Hill producing on the all-new SKOR North. We come to you, as we always do, from the TCL broadcast studios. Hello, Matthew. How are you today?
I am doing great, Judd. How are you?
I am good. I could use, if we could keep this to one snowstorm per week, I'd be happier. I'll take one snowstorm per week. I've lived here my whole life, basically. I've invited this, so I get one snowstorm per week. But beyond that, I'd like to cap it.
In, let's say, like early June, when it's all over and you're walking the dog in shorts, you're looking around and you walk to the park and there's the glistening waters and the beautiful sunrise, and you're like, yeah, I could deal with winter if I get this for most of the time and this nice summer here and all that. But this moment, not great. Not great at all.
No, and you know what? What's sad? On Tuesday, because I told the wife this, Tuesday, the snow, because it was not a ton, right? I thought it was nice. It was pretty. The ground that morning was pretty ugly. So I said to myself, 4 inches of snow, absolutely fine. The driving's a little bit of a pain in the rear end, but that's fine. But then when you got to wake up again today. So once a week, let's say 3 times a month, we get a nice dusting, no more than, let's say, 8 inches in a snowstorm, because if it's more than 8, it becomes a pain in the butt as far as driving goes. But anyway. All right. Well, let's start with this one.
One more thing.
Yeah, of course.
Look, if there's a sidewalk, I understand why you would want to just shovel it off. It's the rules that you have to shovel off your sidewalk in front of your house, right?
Correct.
And I don't have a sidewalk in front of my house, but I like to jog even in the winter. I just don't like treadmills. I jog outside in the winter.
Okay.
And I'm totally fine with jogging over some snow that is on a sidewalk.
Yeah.
I am not totally fine with trying to jog on an ice rink. So if there is snow on a sidewalk, but there's 4 inches of ice underneath it, do not shovel it.
Well, they have to.
But do not. Okay, then don't shovel it all.
Okay, why don't you?
Leave me some snow.
Wait.
Because you're risking everybody's life at that point.
Wait.
You'd rather walk over snow.
Wait, hold on a second. Why don't? Okay.
Or salt the thing.
I understand. I'll preface this by saying I understand your preference for running outside when possible, but this time of year, why not a treadmill? I think you're asking for trouble. I think people like you are asking for trouble.
This is beyond the point. It's not about me, Judd. It's about anyone who walks.
I know, but I'm
over
telling
this.
you, go inside at this point.
No, I
Suck
can't.
it up
I don't
and
like
go to the
going
treadmill.
Why do you hate treadmills, Coller?
Boring. Just super boring. I don't like to run. I don't think anyone really likes to run.
Fair enough. That's fine.
And so if
I disagree, but I think that you're on the right track.
Yeah, I'm okay. Like there are some people who
nut jobs,
are really serious about running. I'm not really serious about running. I do it so I don't like get really fat.
So you don't have to go
like
I'm on.
That reminds me of the old Charles Barkley commercial where he's just like, I don't run because I get tired and I don't lift weights because they're heavy.
Yeah. That's so that's basically it. Is I do what I think is the minimum to not gain a bunch of weight because I eat fast food too much.
I appreciate that completely.
Okay.
Totally get that.
I know that if I get on a treadmill, I will get so bored in about 5 minutes that I'll just stop and go back to doing whatever I was doing before. But if I'm jogging outside and I run away from my house 1 mile, I have to run back. There's no other choice. You are a mile away from the house. It's freezing. Get moving. So it forces me to get the blood going to go out there and actually do the thing I'm supposed to do.
Okay, treadmill. Can't you watch TV put on
Too boring.
music,
Yeah, too boring.
which you love.
It's just I like
But wait,
music
but
and I
you're-
listen to podcasts when I run outside, but I just get too bored. I'm not going anywhere. There's
Okay.
nothing to see.
I feel like in this state, you're asking for huge trouble because the edict is that you snow blow or shovel in front of your house. So you're asking people not to do what they're told to do. So they're going to do it. So you are inevitably going to fall and sustain an injury of some sort, which might need surgery.
What I'm saying is that this is a different circumstance
No,
where
no.
there's ice underneath it. It's not a good idea.
But what are you asking people to do? Like only take so much snow, like only shovel a little bit? The collar rules?
Okay. Either leave some that allows for grip, so take off just the top layer, or
do that.
how about some salt? Does anybody have any salt here?
Okay, I did go out, and as you know,
Salt the sidewalk.
and as you know, I am Mr. Do Nothing, right? Like I'll shovel, but for the most part, I don't fix anything. The wife fixes things. I did go out a couple days ago and got the 50-pound bag, and it works.
Oh, it works.
Now it's disgusting because it turns the sidewalk sort of a pinkish color that I don't recognize.
I've got the blue salt, but yes.
But it does work. So yes, you're right. But I feel like you're asking for trouble. I feel like you're going to call us in a month and be like, I can't come in for the show. Why, Matthew? Because I'm about to undergo surgery. I tore my ACL.
I even have the things that you can strap on your shoes that stick into the ice. But if it's like ice rink style where there's 4 inches of ice, those aren't even really that effective. You're just sliding all over the place.
You got the cleats type of deal? Is
Yeah,
that
it's
what
like
you're saying?
it's like a cleat type of
That's
thing.
sort of
It's
an
got
old
like
man thing.
these spikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's
You're like the old
largely
man.
for old people who don't want to fall down. So you strap them on the shoes and you can stick into the ice. But it works pretty well for the outdoor jogging. Now, last night, Judd, my outdoor jogging usually happens in the evening.
Join a gym. Yeah, keep going. I'm listening.
Oh, that's another thing too.
Join a
You know how I am
bleeping
with stuff like
gym.
this. With gyms, I don't like to be around that many people. See, it's very nice for me. All the benefits of running outside, I like all of them. I like to be able to look at stuff. I like the fresh air. Even if it's cold, I don't mind the cold air because once you get going, you're fine.
And pre-ice, I'm with you completely. I think I don't do it. I prefer to go to a gym, but I totally get you.
But how about this last night? This shook me a little bit. So I'm walking the dog, which I have to do every night per her request.
Big dog.
Big dog.
Yep.
Walking the dog at about 10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So I go around a corner. She's doing her business. I turn around and I see 2 big ass coyotes walking down the street.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not good.
And so they looked at me and the dog looked at them like, oh, look, friends. Because she's an idiot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, those aren't friends. And then we stared at each other for a little while. I was like, are you going to do something? And they were like, are you going to do something? And then we both agreed to go our separate ways, and they went jogging down the street. But I was like,
oh, so they didn't come at you at all?
They didn't. No.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to think, like, what do you do? And so I did all this research after. And I guess either standing there or trying to make yourself look bigger is the way to go. Do not run away from them.
No, I've seen try and scare them yourself.
Yes. Try to get bigger.
But that scares me right there.
It scared that.
As a guy with a
heck
small
out of me.
dog, that scares me.
Oh, yeah. No,
Because we've got them around
keep the
my
dog
house
close.
a little bit.
Yeah.
That one scares me. But yeah, you're supposed to try and scare them yourself.
They probably wouldn't. My dog is 70 pounds, so they probably wouldn't go after her, but they were about her size, and they're just as fast. So I was like, oh, man, this is not my favorite thing. And I go jogging all around the neighborhood. Like, I don't want to run into these fellas.
Is this dark at this point?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was dark. Now, luckily, my neighborhood is really well lit up, so we could really see each other.
Mm-hmm.
But as you know, you see a dog looking thing walking down the street, and I'm like, what is that? Like a dog off its leash or something? And then it looks over and like, nope, that's. And then another one comes by, and that was not a fun time last night.
But your dog didn't do a thing.
She just looked at them.
That's good too.
Yeah, she just
your dog
looked
didn't
at
do
them.
anything.
She is not an attack dog, really. She scares people because she's big, but she's super friendly. But if they came at her, she would try to play with them. Because she's really dumb.
And my dog would be eaten in like one gulp.
Yes.
Stella's got no chance in that fight.
But I mean, even if I wanted to run, it's icy, and the people.
Well, you got your cleats on, old man.
I did not have my cleats on last night, but if people had left some snow there, I could have run.
Why weren't you wearing your cleats last night?
It was just a walk. It wasn't a jog.
Oh, okay.
Maybe the coyotes would slip and fall as they're running after you.
They looked like they were pretty adept at everything. they were. I mean, once they took off, they went pretty fast, and they're like, okay.
They got good traction.
My outdoor jogging I don't know. I'm not going to stop, but now I'm going to be like unnerved when I go jogging because of these coyotes.
Why don't you join a gym, just like a cheap gym, and go early?
Isn't that what everybody does? Don't people go early because they try to avoid people, but they run into people because everyone has that idea?
I went to my gym a couple days ago early, pretty much empty. Now at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, it's packed.
Like PM, you mean?
Yes, PM. But I went about 8 a.m. empty.
Oh,
absolutely
okay.
Perfect.
Well,
no people.
Well,
you would have loved it.
We're working real jobs.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's fine. All right. Where do you want to start?
That's it. That's it for the show today.
Is that it?
Some little coyote talk.
Purple Daily TCL broadcast studio. See you tomorrow. Bye.
I went home and watched some guy's seminar on how to deal with coyotes. Like, I don't want any part of that.
You guys today are incredible. You have a problem and like
solve it.
I go home and I'm like, that was scary. Now I'm going to watch TV. You watch a seminar. That's the difference between your generation and mine.
That's right.
I go home and I'm like,
look it up.
Hey, sweetheart, that was scary. Now let's watch a little bit of TV, and you actually go watch a documentary on coyotes.
This can be problematic at times. Like if you use WebMD or something, WebMD thinks you have cancer no matter what. It's like, I've got a slightly sore throat, like throat cancer. That's what WebMD says.
You know what? Before that, long before that, my parents, when I was a kid, got a book. Same type of deal, though. Look it up, right? After I looked up like the first 3 things, never again, because you're convinced that you're dead.
Yeah, and if you
Google, it's like, I'm only 11 years old. Why am I dying of this?
I mean, the other thing is like, if you Google certain things, our house is in the path of planes, like everyone else's around here, by the way.
Of course.
And so when we were buying the house, we're like 3/4 of the way through buying the house, and my wife Googles like, is it okay to live this close to the airport? Yeah. And of course, you're gonna like become illiterate and get cancer and just pretty much die immediately.
Plane fuel's going to be dumped on your house. It's going to blow up. Yeah,
exactly.
I've seen all.
According to Google, everyone in the Twin Cities area should be dead. I'm like, well, doesn't seem like that's the case. So let's just buy the house anyway instead of backing off.
Now, did Mac actually at some point in time fix your house up? Because the airport commission at some point went to houses close around the airport and like put more, I think, siding on them and put soundproof. Actually, a very good deal.
Yes, it's actually great because even though there are planes constantly going over us, we don't really hear them.
See, that is good.
There's only certain, and I couldn't even begin to guess which flights it is, but certain flights, certain days, we will hear ones that are a little bit closer. But for the most part, I mean, it's silent in there because they put extra stuff to make sure that it's soundproofed, and it's fantastic. And we haven't gotten cancer or died yet.
That's a very good thing.
Yeah, it's positive. So not everything that you Google is right, but this guy who did the coyote presentation did a great job.
I love the fact that you went home and watched a coyote presentation.
I don't want to mess with coyotes.
No, I agree with
big.
You. No,
I didn't know they were that big.
They're big and they're scary. I'm saying I think it's a funny example of the generational difference between you and me. That if I see one, I sort of get scared and go home and just try and forget about it, and you go home and try and solve the problem.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the difference.
That's exactly right. And you know what? It even relates to.
I'm not making fun of it. I'm just saying
you're
it's
totally
the difference
right.
between the two of us.
You're absolutely right. And I'm not saying that you do sports this way, but I think that people of certain generations think about sports this way, where if it's someone who's 30 something or 25. And you're arguing with them about some topic, we're like, okay, well, let's go to their baseball reference and let's find out the wins above replacement for Mariano Rivera versus Brett Saberhagen.
Yep.
Let's just go see this. And I think another era might be like, yeah, but Rivera was untouchable. You know, like, yeah, I get that. But it says right here, like, here's all the facts, here's all the numbers. And it's really changed the way that we debate about sports things. Because I think that we've moved really far away from talking about the personality parts. Is this guy got the clutch gene? Is he tough enough? Those sorts of things. They come up. And when it's obvious that someone's not giving 110, I don't know if any local basketball players like that, but when it's obvious, but otherwise it's usually looking for more distinct explanations. Even with this Super Bowl, I saw an article from The Athletic breaking down the film, and then some former NFL players started tweeting it and like saying, "Oh, I think it's this that they're doing. I think it's that they're doing." That's stuff that you wouldn't have been able to find before. You might have just said, "You know what? I think that Goff, he's not clutch, or he just doesn't have it."
Right.
So I think that it's always become interesting.
That's gone too far in some ways. Like, I think that's why the perfect front office staff at this point is probably a mixture of people, because I think it's gone too far. There's a certain group that tries to dismiss personalities and locker room culture and people altogether. But then there is the other group who thinks that that's the key to life, and that's not true. So I think if you could find the sort of the in-between mix there, that's the most important thing, because then if you meld them together, you start to get the answer, because both are important. But yes, there definitely is an age group that says, I saw Y.E. Tittle play, and let me tell you, sonny boy, Y.E. Tittle's better than any quarterback today. And you're like, okay, let's just back up just a little bit on that one and have a conversation.
And a lot of times, some of those things that you see and that are harder to pin down with factual information can be validated, though, by the numbers. I mean, if you're looking at somebody like Andrew Wiggins, we have such detail now that you could put your finger on how often he hustles and where he ranks in hustle stats and things like that. So you could say, and it's like the Coyote thing, where my instinct with the Coyotes was just like, you don't mess with me, I don't mess with you. Or I thought maybe if they started to walk toward me, I would just put my hands up. Like, don't run away from a Coyote that can run 40 miles an hour.
Yeah,
That'd be stupid. But I wanted to go check. And that's the same way with this, where it's like, maybe I think that Kirk Cousins isn't all that good on third down and long, because it looks that way. It looks like he's having trouble processing and he's patting the ball too long and taking a sack.
Right.
But now I can go check and I can see, did he make big throws on third and long? How many yards per attempt? How can we compare his numbers so I can see if some of those theories that I see on Sunday actually apply?
Do you know the one thing, though, that drives me nuts now, and I don't think we do it as much as we used to, but it's still a default, is trying to compare players at positions from eras that aren't close.
Yeah.
That drives me the craziest now. I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's fair. I think but you get these people that say, I saw Bradshaw play, and it's like, okay, one, his stats don't look great now, but two, go back and watch those games and it's a different game.
Mm-hmm.
But also, you just can't compare them. Like, you can't take Bradshaw and then let's say Montana and then let's say Young and now a quarterback Goff and say, well, look at this. No, it's completely different. The game has changed. The rules have changed. Everything has changed.
The other thing that's problematic is that there are so many stats available that if you really are intent on making an argument, if you look at all of them and then pick out, okay, what means something, what doesn't mean something, let me compare this to what I've heard from the team, let me compare this to other quarterbacks, and let's get a full picture of something. That's the way to do it. But if you're arguing with someone and you just want to make the case about a guy in one way or another, you can try to finagle that some way or another because there are so many available stats to you. And Cousins is a good example of this, of people who will say, oh, he threw for 4,000 yards. It must have been a great season. And we all watched it. It wasn't a great season. But if you are intent on believing in this quarterback, which is fine, but you just have these available stats to you. Look at his quarterback rating. Look at his QBR, which ESPN just kind of invented out of thin air. And I haven't been able to figure out how to use it in any way, shape, or form, but still, like, it's a stat that maybe says he wasn't that bad.
Right.
Like, okay, well, does that really mean as much toward winning as these other things? Probably not.
And statistically, guess what? He probably wasn't. Statistically. That's why it's important to watch games. That's why it's important to if you watch a quarterback every fifth game, guess what? Unless it's a Hall of Fame, surefire, great top 5 QB, you're not going to get an accurate read on that player.
Yeah.
It's true of every player.
Yeah.
So if you watch all their games, that's why I said it helps to get a mixture of people who see things in different lights. Because if you go with the analytical statistical group alone, they're going to come out with a very different result or feeling about a guy than a guy will who actually watches every game and says, okay, this guy does this well, he does this well, but then here's 3 things that he either needs to improve on or he never will.
Yeah, and I find myself even as someone who loves analytics and statistics and diving as deep as possible, sort of going against sometimes numbers because you have to contextualize them. There's not just the numbers are truth. It's Pat Elflein's the good example. Didn't have a great season. Low Pro Football Focus grade. But there's a lot of things we need to say about that to have to go along with it. And the other thing too is if you don't believe that toughness is important, you're crazy. If you don't think leadership is important,
right,
you're crazy.
Right.
Like those things matter.
But part of the problem with that and the direction you're going that's intriguing here is this. And we're fortunate to get to do this. But if you don't go into clubhouses, locker rooms, places like that, you cannot have an appreciation for that. When you watch people interact and see the importance of what people can bring, both positive and bad.
This is a great point because I was reading Bruce Arians' book, which is it's really good. And in a way, I feel bad for Bruce Arians because he took a job with a quarterback that I think he could probably help, but is not someone who can be fully helped in Jameis Winston. But reading his book, one of the things he talks about is that quarterbacks who are great leaders make everybody believe they can do things that they're not actually capable of. And I thought it was the perfect way of put it. Like maybe someone doesn't believe they are capable of something, but a great leader is able to get more out of them than they ever believed possible.
Yes.
And that's something where when you talk about why Mike Zimmer liked Teddy Bridgewater so much, he had that impact on people. And I've heard it right from the horse's mouth for about a dozen players. Adam Thielen said this last year. Teddy Bridgewater made me a better wide receiver.
Yes.
And that to me is what great leaders can do. So you can't just look at this stat or that stat, although I will say that Bridgewater's underlying numbers are really terrific from 2015.
But his intangibles were huge.
But the intangibles,
yes.
I mean, all of these things. So it's not just how many passes did you complete? How many yards did you gain when it comes to the stat? Or even in certain situations, in other situations, it's how did you make your linemen better? Because Kirk Cousins this year made his linemen worse. Mm-hmm. And Case Keenum in 2017 made them better. And I think that those are things that you can see and you have a sense for, but it's trying to put together, okay, well, how much did it matter that he wasn't a great leader? Or how much did it matter that he didn't have that pocket presence and trying to project it forward? And I think that all this stuff has made all these conversations more fun.
And the other part of that too is going back to fantasy football. I mean, to the 4,000 yards thing, if somebody had Kirk Cousins on their fantasy team in 2018,
they were happy.
They were happy with him because he threw 30 touchdowns and he threw for 4,000 yards and he probably scored a lot of points for their team.
And the rules are written to make that happen.
Yeah,
they didn't used to be. I'll give you 3 Vikings QBs who all enter this conversation in intriguing ways. The first one is Favre. Favre came here and empowered key people. And Favre played the game and acted consistently like he was 12, okay? But it worked. Teammates loved him, gravitated towards him.
Yep.
And Favre in 2009 took Sidney Rice, who was an ascending nice player. I don't think he was ever great, but he was a very nice player, and made him a Pro Bowl player because he said, "You're my guy." And until that fateful pass that he attempted to force across the middle against the Saints, it worked perfectly. Case Keenum, laid back guy, right? But guys gravitated towards him. They liked sort of the laid back, but I've got control of this. Zimmer can say whatever he wants about me. It's fine. It worked. Cousins, when you watch him interact with teammates and at the podium, you have a feeling that he has an idea of what a corporate quarterback should be, but you don't sense that anybody, including his teammates, are buying it. And that's not a criticism. That's the reality of what I saw in 2018. But 3 very different people, and I'm not even talking about their on-field abilities. I'm talking about what they bring from an intangible standpoint to the team as the most important position player on that team, Matthew.
Yeah, and there are a lot of ways that quarterbacks who are the best at this relate to other people on an individual, personal level. And I like to go back to Bridgewater with this because I've never seen anything like it. And when you see Zimmer get emotional talking about Bridgewater, when he says, "I love him," and he says that I never want another quarterback, I mean, I think if you just looked at the numbers, you would say, like, I don't get it. I don't see it. And then when you hear the players tell their stories about him and you see how he interacts in the locker room, you see on a Friday when they're all in there just eating, he invites the guy who's on the practice squad to come sit with him and Delvin Cook and Terrence Newman. Yeah. Then, like, he brings every individual in and makes them feel like they are an important part of the team. That's something he's able to do. They talked about in New Orleans. Tell me if you're surprised. There's a big story out of New Orleans, how Bridgewater impacted the team as a backup quarterback. We saw that in 2017. And with Cousins, I think he struggles to relate to people. And something that really stuck out to me, and then a tweet of his from yesterday, I think about these two things with him. And I saw numerous instances, but he mentioned in a press conference about teaching wide receivers. And I thought, you're not the coach, man. Right. Like, if you want to be on their level where you can relate to these other players, you can't act like you're up here and they're down there. I'm coaching you. No, wait. No, you're a player. Like Teddy Bridgewater beating other players at Madden. He was the best Madden player, so he would school everybody in Madden. Like, that's not a Kirk Cousins thing. He's not relating to these guys on a personal level. He tweeted yesterday, my high school national signing day was held in our school's choir room. My choir teacher didn't know what was going on the next day. He made me promise two things: no tattoos and Super Bowl tickets if I ever play in the game. Doing my best to keep both. Now, look, that's fine. That's a cute little story and good for you. But the no tattoos thing, like, if you're going to be a guy who's trying to lead a bunch of people and you're like, yeah, no tattoos, trying my best to keep them off my body, and you have all these other guys who love tattoos. Kyle Rudolph has a big arm sleeve of tattoos. Latavius Murray, like, it's very common. Yeah, I mean, these guys love tattoos. Yeah. And it's just like one of those things where if you're his teammate and you see this, you're like, all right, bro. Like, okay, no tattoos, Kirk. You know, this whole, like, button-up sort of thing, corporate quarterback sort of thing. I can
teach you to be like me.
Yeah, that's right. I can teach you how to run your route. Like, I don't think that really flies with anybody, and I saw the impact of it as we went along in the season.
All right, let's take a break. Come back after this. We're in the TCL Broadcast Studios, Purple Daily, Zulgad and Coller.
It's Phil Mackey here from the all-new SKOR North on 1500 and SKORNorth.com. We've made it easier than ever to find our team-centric Minnesota sports podcast. Wherever you subscribe to podcasts, just search SKOR North, that's SKOR, and you'll find SKOR North Vikings, for instance, which includes Purple Daily, Purple Podcast, and Vikings Ventline. SKOR North Wolves includes Raised by Wolves, Myron Medcalf on Hoops, and more. SKOR North Twins includes Touch 'em All, Royce on Baseball, and more, and so on. Just search SKOR North, SKOR, wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
This feels right. Let's pursue this further. SKOR North, Minnesota sports. Anytime, anywhere. SKORNorth.com.
Hey guys, looking for a great Valentine's gift idea? Head to the Pandora Jewelry Stores in Mall of America, Rosedale, and Ridgedale Centers. Pandora has lots of great gift ideas, including bracelets, charms, rings, earrings, and necklaces. Even better, they have a helpful staff that will help you pick the perfect gift and even wrap it up for you to give to her. Pandora Jewelry also has lots of great ready-made gift sets. Also, now through Monday, you'll also receive a complimentary set of heart earrings with every $125 purchase. See store for details. Shop the Pandora Jewelry Stores at Mall of America, Rosedale, and Ridgedale Centers. They're open tonight until 9 p.m.
Save 11% on everything at Menards. It's the perfect time for a kitchen update. Explore the beautiful cabinets on display and find the style that's right for your home, knowing you can save 11% on all of it. Complement your cabinets with Riverstone Quartz countertop. Complete the project with a perfect faucet, backsplash, and floor, and save 11% on everything now at Menards. Good through February 9th. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Would you like to take control of your career and get paid for what you achieve? Would you like to work for a locally owned business that invests in developing their employees to become leaders? How about being connected to the local sports teams, including podcasts, digital, social, and audio? Want to help local businesses grow their revenue? If your answer was yes to these questions, here's what you should do. Go to SKORNorth.com/careers to learn more and to apply. Hubbard Radio is an equal opportunity employer.
All right, Peloton, keep it going.
Thanks for riding with me today. You're halfway through this 30-minute hip-hop ride.
Double your money and make it stack.
For all my first-time Peloton riders, how far will you go this year? Remember, your finish line is just the beginning. Get after it.
Learn more about the Peloton bike at onepeloton.com or try it at Mall of America or Galleria Edina.
Let's think about customization presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Liberty Mutual customizes your auto insurance so you only pay for what you need. So why can't more things in life be customizable? Why can't I buy Neapolitan ice cream without strawberry? Can't I just have the chocolate and vanilla flavors I'm comfortable with? Do people even want a fruity ice cream flavor sandwiched right between the classics?
Go to libertymutual.com for a customized quote and you could save.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Coverage is underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Equal housing insurer.
Doesn't a summer weekend at a cabin sound good right now? Whether you already own a cabin or dream of owning one, we're the next best thing to being there. It's the Lake Home and Cabin Show, February 15th through the 17th at the Minneapolis Convention Center. Unique furnishings and decor, builders and real estate, docks, boats, cabin products and gifts, free seminars and daily activities. We'll see you at the Lake Home and Cabin Show, February 15th through the 17th, Minneapolis Convention Center. Life should always be this fun.
Hot takes, North cool. SKORNorth.com.
And this portion of Purple Daily is brought to you by Robert W. Baird & Company.
All right, Purple Daily on the all-new SKOR North, SKORNorth.com. Of course, we're on the old AM 1500. We're in the TCL broadcast studios. Zulgad and Matthew Coller talking about Kirk Cousins, sir. You came across some play-by-play of Kirk in recent days, huh?
Okay, look. I told you before the show, this is not a real hard and fast take. This is not a serious, I am going full yell on TV type of take.
You're not going...
Put my head in one box and your head in the other box, and Stephen A. Coller and Max Zulgad are going to yell at each other, okay? This is not what's happening.
You get Kirk's name wrong then.
But I do think that Kirk Cousins tweeting a bunch of videos and pictures from his vacation could rub some people the wrong way. It's not something you see anybody else doing. Like, look, I'm in the Bahamas or whatever, drinking from a coconut. Look at the beautiful glistening water as I go to grill. And then he tries to make a little joke.
I got the right meat on the grill this time. I saw that one a couple days ago.
Look, man, if you went to the NFC Championship game, maybe people would be like, all right, this is fine.
Yeah.
It's snowing here. It's going to be 0 tomorrow. I don't see any other Vikings doing this because I think all the other Vikings realize they went 8-7-1. I'm not sure that the quarterback realizes they went 8-7-1. I've never felt...
Quarterback threw for 4,000 yards, dude. He's just fine.
30 touchdown passes.
I just have never felt from Cousins, including him skipping the final locker room, by the way. But I never felt in his final press conference or anywhere along the way that he really grasped what the fans were thinking about this team and just how much of a disappointment this season was to everyone. And this kind of shows that of like, okay, so you assume that Vikings fans follow you, right? If you're the quarterback of their team.
Right.
So what is the thing that you want to show them? Do you really want to show them that you're vacationing on the beach? I can guarantee you 80% of the league is vacationing on the beach. And I'm not seeing
they sure as hell aren't
else.
here right now.
And I'm not seeing that.
I don't know. You know,
else.
To answer your question, I don't sense from Kirk's personality that he really does have a feeling for what you're talking about. I think he looks at his personal statistics. I think he looks at it as, I'm making a lot. I play football. We won 8 games. I don't know that it really bugs him. I think he would tell you, but that's the thing is, you could probably, in the right circumstance, get him to tell you whatever you wanted him to say. Because I think that's how he's wired. But if you were to fill him full of truth serum, I don't think it bugs him that much. No.
Hey, all I got to say to you guys is...
Tough times don't last, tough people do, right?
But I mean, that's rehearsed. That's all. And that was the second. That's my point about him. I think we have to realize that we're dealing with a person here who's going to tell you what he's been told to tell you. And so we're not dealing with the guy. There are some guys, and there's a lot of QBs who are probably like this, who are just wired competitors, and they want to kick your butt. And then there's human beings who are given skills from God, from above, who can maintain a lifestyle and a level of play that's successful enough to them, but they're not wired like that. I don't think he's wired like that.
I mean,
I don't know what to tell. And I don't know what to tell you. I don't know that I can help it. I don't know if Gary Kubiak can get to him and maybe help him evolve here. Perhaps he can't.
There is just a.
I mean, you can't. This goes back to the conversation about people. Like, you can't necessarily. You can have a great arm and you can have abilities and you can throw for 4,000 yards, but this goes back to the intangibles. You cover this guy for an entire year. So tell me this, Coller, stripping away any biases that you might have about what you saw for the hundreds of times probably that you were in the locker room in Egan. What did you see? Give me an example of what you saw from Kirk where you said, oh, okay, that's what you want to see. I mean, Bridgewater, you clearly did.
Well,
he called it Vlad Ducas's team, and he wasn't kidding.
But, I mean, what's funny about that is that I covered Bridgewater for the whole time that he wasn't playing, and yet I could still see the tangible impact that he had on people, and I wrote about it. And this is where it's always funny when people respond to my stuff and they say, like, oh, you just love Kirk and hate Teddy. No, I'm telling you what I see. I'm telling you what the numbers say and what the people say. And I wrote it all down in a big, giant ass article about Teddy Bridgewater. I just went to players and I asked them without any pushing or whatever else, just, hey, how did Teddy Bridgewater impact you? And some guys got emotional. And if you say the same thing about Kirk Cousins, I don't think you get much. I think he's a good person, which is totally believable. He certainly comes across that way. You get that he's very detailed and he's very prepared and he's very smart, and all those things are true. And there's a reason why he's a successful NFL quarterback. Like, do you know how hard it is to be an NFL quarterback just in general?
Absolutely.
The guy has a lot going for him. But when it comes to that next level of impacting people and making them better, I cannot give you an example. And when you ask people, tell me the best thing about Kirk that isn't his arm or isn't his accuracy or his footwork or anything
off the field,
it's always,
give me something.
It's always, he works really hard. And I totally believe that. He's the last one here every night. He wants everybody to stay with him, to watch extra film, and those guys do that. And all of that is true as far as his work ethic. And that's probably when the Vikings did all their research on him, it kept coming back to, he wants to be here. He wants to do the work. He does all the research. He does all the stuff for his body. He's in great shape. He's never been out for any games. People think that I just think he's a bum or something. It's like, it's not that. It's the difference between somebody taking you to a good level of football where you are a competitive team, and then to that next level where you can actually win something.
Right.
And that's where I wonder if that really exists. I wonder if that leadership quality of his, and also the ability on the field to do things like process, make quick adjustments, make big time throws, those are questionable too. But as far as getting someone over the hump to the next level,
right?
Do you think it's just Tom Brady's quick passing ability that gets him there year after year after year? You think that's the only thing?
Right.
I'd kind of look at it. Reminds me of, and this is kind of random, but it reminds me of when the Detroit Pistons traded for Rasheed Wallace in the 03-04 season, KG's MVP season. Detroit was already good, and they had already been to the Eastern Conference Finals the year before. But Rasheed Wallace came into that locker room, and he just added something. It was just like this toughness, there was something there. I mean, Rasheed was a good player, but he just added something else that just was able to move the needle and get them over the top, and they end up winning the title that year.
But in football, it's even more imperative because the quarterback position is so important.
Right.
So if that person, and listen, you, Coller, you're basically telling us, and this very well might be completely true, that he lacks the intangibles. And this is where the statistical people get lost and think, oh, just shut up. Look what he can do. It doesn't matter. That position, I don't think people get. In 2009, Favre was almost 40. Okay? He was old. Brett Favre had a great year. But I can tell you right now that a huge part of the success of that Vikings team was built on the fact that Brett Favre off the field was as important or more important than statistically. And his stats were fantastic. But what he brought to that chemistry, to that locker room, to that team, and the amount of empowerment they felt because their quarterback was fantastic and basically told them, you can do this, was huge.
Well, and you're also asking people to follow you every single play, every single down, and believe in you every single play, every single down. And nobody is going to be perfect when it comes to this. No quarterback is going to be without mistakes. Bridgewater threw a left-handed interception once.
Oh, and look at Brett. Look at Brett.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
But, you know, one thing that I heard from George Iloka, I had a good conversation with him about Ben Roethlisberger. Now, Ben Roethlisberger doesn't strike me as a great guy. In fact, he's about the farthest thing from a great guy. And he also doesn't always strike me as the best quote unquote leader. But one of the things is he has when it's in the game, what George Iloka said is you could sack him 5 times. He could throw 3 picks. And that team believes that he's going to make the next big throw because the guy has always been a winner. He's always made those big throws. He's always been willing to take those risks. So when we look at the spectrum of someone's intangibles, I wouldn't say Kirk Cousins doesn't have great intangibles because that's a whole spectrum that includes work ethic where he is absolutely fantastic. It includes commitment. It includes drive for excellence and all those things, which he seems to have. But there's this other part. It's very much like his game on the field. There's this other part that's severely missing.
But I'll stop you right there because the intangibles, you just recited the intangibles that he wants you to think he has, and I'm not positive. Like he's so rehearsed, I can't tell. And I'm not even ripping him. I don't know. Perhaps he does.
No, he does.
But
he does.
But there are a lot of things about what he does that are clearly the brain coach is a perfect example. He's got the brain coach. The whole thing about Brady is, well, if Tom does that, it sounds good. And that doesn't mean he doesn't do it, but you have to then look at what else Tom does. And Tom does a ton of things. And this is not saying that Kirk doesn't want those things, but they are, when you are going through things that are clearly rehearsed, it becomes very difficult then to tell what's really you and what do you want people to think is you. And I just don't know.
The work ethic stuff, there's no question about it from my mind. Now, I do think that he probably clutters himself a bit with all that extra stuff of just like trying to constantly search for these answers about how to be a leader. I mean, a lot of the people who are the great leaders teach other people how to do it rather than having to be taught how to do it. You know, he sat down with PJ Fleck to talk leadership. And I think that that's great that he does all this stuff and he researches every single part of his game and the body stuff and everything. I mean, he is extremely diligent and detailed. So when we're talking about that, and also, I mean, pick his brain about football. The guy will know every defense up and down. He will know all the strategies, what beats man, what beats zone, when you make adjustments, why play action works. Throw a football question at him. It's really special, his knowledge of the game. But it's funny that when you go back to sort of his scouting reports coming out of college and things like that, it's always been with him very good on a lot of things and then very short on other things. It's not like it's average leadership. It's well below average in terms of relating to other players. And it's not that he just only sometimes makes plays off script. It's that he never makes plays off script. So it's his game on the field. Some of those shortcomings are what I think causes him to win 8 or 9 games every year is because these shortcomings are so short that the other side of it can't make up for it.
Purple Daily is the show. We are in the TCL broadcast studios. Let's go to Cyrus in West Fargo, North Dakota. Hello, Cyrus. Thanks for holding on.
Hey, John. Hey, Matthew. I'm out here shoveling snow and stuff. We got a blizzard going on up here, but I had taken a couple of weeks off of listening to you guys just because I'm burnt out with football and Super Bowls and all that stuff. But I feel like it's a soap opera. Like you watch Days of Our Lives like once every 2 years, and turn it back on, and it's the same stuff. You guys are still ripping at Kirk Cousins.
He's the quarterback of the NFL team.
Yeah, he's the most important player on the team.
I mean, it seems like it shouldn't be called Purple Daily. It should be called Rip on Kirk Cousins Daily.
Oh, thanks, Cyrus. Well,
we haven't really talked about Cousins in a few days.
Yeah, really have. He must be listening to that same promo.
Well,
I said we need to change it.
That's the problem. No, the problem was he said, I took some days off. So, yeah, you can't miss shows.
Yeah, you got to listen to every show, Cyrus.
I don't think, if I'm not mistaken, on the show that Rami and I did yesterday, we did not mention Kirk Cousins once. And I was very positive
been
on
talking
that
about
show.
what Anthony Barr is going to do.
I've
free agency.
also spent the last couple of weeks talking about how they can make Kirk Cousins better. I mean, so yeah, I guess that does, in a way, talk about Kirk Cousins. But like, I think that anybody who's reasonable thinks that, yes, the quarterback will be talked about. It's like if people turn on ESPN and go, LeBron James again. Like, yes.
Why aren't they talking about the Warriors' 12th player?
Yeah, you know what?
Why isn't Steve Kerr playing the 10th guy in Golden State?
You want to hear some Matt Weil analysis? He's the punter. I can do that for you. No, I'm.
Is he not going to hold the ball as long in 2019 before punting? So we all have a bleeping heart attack when he's about to punt.
It's February 7th.
Yes.
Then there's March. That's 1 month. How many till we get to September, till there's another game? It'll be about September 7th, somewhere in there, September 9th?
Yes.
What's that, like 8?
Yeah. Well, but the great thing about this league is next month we've got the new league year starting, free agency starts, then you got the draft. So that's the genius of this league.
There's lots of fun.
There's lots to talk about. But how I don't understand. I guess I'm a little bit confused by how are you not going to talk about the quarterback, who, by the way, is very well paid on a team that just underperformed, and you're talking about how he can possibly improve.
But I understand where some people are coming from, because it frustrates them that Kirk Cousins did not perform to the level they wanted him to. They wanted to believe in him. They wanted him to be the guy that took them to the next level from Case Keenum. They were all on board when he signed, and then it was a gut punch to see him go 8-7-1.
Sure.
And when we talk about it, it feels like you're rubbing it in their face. And the other thing too is I didn't hear Cyrus tell me anything that was untrue. That's the thing. Like,
he took 2 weeks off from the station, came back, and was very disappointed that we hadn't turned the page. And by the way, yesterday I gave a 15-minute soliloquy on how good I thought the 2019 Vikings can be.
Oh, and I agree with you. I think that they can definitely be a playoff team. But I just think it's interesting that there's no specific point that he wants to discuss. It's really just, why are you talking about the quarterback of the most popular team and probably one of the top 10 NFL markets in the country? Well, I think that's your answer. But you know what the other reason is too? If the quarterback wasn't interesting, I wouldn't talk about him. But he's super interesting because he's just good enough to get you close, but he's not good enough to get you over the hump. Will that ever actually happen? And all these things are interesting factors to weigh in of, like, can you overcome the fact that he's not going to learn how to relate to other people in that locker room? Can you overcome that he can't make plays off script? Is there a way to do that? That is the off-season conversation A1 for the Minnesota Vikings.
I will never grow bored of talking about how potential star athletes are wired and what that means. It's one of the most intriguing things because it's not talked about a lot, and at times it's incredibly important. Like, we treat these guys now as if they're statistical outputters, right? Hey, you just put out these stats. But the guys who are under the pressure that they are, how they're wired and how they process that, to me, is among the most interesting things in sports.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I'll take a break. Purple Daily back after this.
Binge listen Minnesota sports. SKORNorth.com.
It's Phil Mackey here from the all-new SKOR North on 1500 and SKORNorth.com. We've made it easier than ever to